The Ministry of Home Affairs has called a very important meeting tomorrow where they'll be looking at the ISIS spreading its tentacles in India. But before that, my colleague Abhishek Bhalla traveled to Hyderabad where he was able to speak to a young boy called Saifullah. He's one of the 4 Indians who were trapped by the ISIS. The ISIS wanted to get them to join their global jihad. The Indian agencies stopped it just in the nick of time. No one has heard from Saifullah so far on the reasons behind getting lured by the ISIS and how this indoctrination took place. There's a lot of focus on the ISIS threat now. Let's kickstart this part of the newsroom by getting you this Abhishek Bhalla exclusive story filed first for Mail Today.
The most brutal face of terror, the Islamic State, spreading its tentacles slowly from Iraq and Syria into the hearts and minds of the young and the impressionable the world over. This is the voice of a 26-year-old. Mail Today spoke to a terror recruit. The publication has changed his name to protect his identity. Listen to Saifuddin's chilling confessions on what lured him into joining ISIS.
एकदम हाई क्वालिटी वीडियोस बनाते जिससे आप मतलब देखते ही लाइक वो कर जाना अट्रैक्ट हो जाना एंड उनकी ट्रेनिंग जैसा कराते थे वो हर चीज़ बताते थे सो एनी यूथ इन हिज टीन्स एज 20s will get attracted to that type of videos. They used to give a description of Jannat. I mean, like after the hereafter, life hereafter, this life is gonna end for 30 years, 40 years, 60 years. One day you're gonna die. If you die for the sake of jihad and for the sake of Allah, then you will get a paradise. Basically, वो लोग ना लालच देते थे, लालची बनाते थे हर चीज़ अच्छा होगा यहाँ पर ये है वो है. They used to give us money, financially used to help us from Dubai or like UK. They used to give them like they don't hesitate to give financial support. They are always ready to provide you financial support.
Saifuddin's confessions on camera lay open the deadly, almost disturbing modus operandi of the terrorist organization. Most men like Saifuddin used to interact with ISIS handlers on social media platforms, where they were shown images and videos of people suffering and torture in Syria and Iraq. Saifuddin says most Indians wanted to serve conflicted Syria and not to be part of ISIS. Handlers would then force recruits to join as volunteers and travel to Turkey as on normal visas and then cross over to Syria. But the Indian agencies were keeping a close watch. And that is why there was a plan B as well, to make Indians cross over illegally to Bangladesh and then facilitate their travel further to Turkey and Syria. Saifuddin is among the 3 people intercepted by Telangana police in September last year. For now at least, they have been let off after questioning. Agency is hoping that this step will go on a long way in de-radicalizing the youth tempted to join the Islamic State. With Mail Today inputs, Bureau Report, India Today.
And it's not just Saifullah. There are reports coming in that 4 Indians were abducted by the ISIS. 2 have now been released. Sushma Swaraj says the government is trying hard to secure the release of the other 2. Some of them were apparently teachers working in Syria who were kidnapped by the ISIS. Smita Sharma files this story.
Lakshmikant and Vijay Kumar, 2 of 4 Indians who were believed to be abducted by suspected Islamic State terrorists in Libya on 29th of July, but have now been released. These men from Raichur and Bengaluru in Karnataka, while the other 2 belonged to Hyderabad. The 4 men were detained on 29th of July as they headed back home after months of no work.
3 of them were faculty members at the University of Sirte and 1 was working at the Sirte University's branch in Jufra. We are in regular touch with the families concerned and all efforts are being made to ensure the well-being and early release of our 4 Indian nationals.
The Indians were stopped at a rebel checkpoint 50 kilometers from Sirte on Thursday. The men wanted to reach Tunis to fly back to India. Despite Sirte having fallen to the ISIS forces and the university being closed since February this year, these men had chosen to stay back. It was on Thursday when they left in 2 taxis to try and head back to India via Tunis. But at one of the checkposts, they were detained by unknown men. Families of those abducted meanwhile approached government authorities to secure their safe return.
Please safely my husband and other 3 people. I want please take your action immediately. That is my request.
The incident is a grim reminder of Indians kidnapped in Iraq in 2014. While 46 nurses held in Tikrit were finally released after government's efforts, only one of the 40 Indians abducted by ISIS managed to escape from Mosul. Even a year later, the government has no information about the 39 construction workers, apart from an assurance that they are still alive. With T.S. Sudhir in Hyderabad and Rohini Swami in Bengaluru, Smita Sharma, New Delhi for India Today.
There's a new breaking dimension to the story, and I've got mail today is Abhishek Bhalla, who scooped this interview with Saifullah. Of course, we've changed his name, but Abhishek, you're now reporting that apparently they're trying to find Indian handlers to be able to recruit more and more Indians.
Well, that's right. In fact, I spoke to 4 of these ISIS aspirants who were trying to go to Syria. And what they told me was that they were mostly in touch with Indians who were present in India and also abroad. And that's the most chilling factor here, because intelligence agencies till now believed...
Does the government know who they are?
Well, yes, even I know who they are, but we are not revealing their names. I have
they are underground, all of them?
Yes, they are underground, but they are being closely tracked and monitored by intelligence agencies, and that's the reason why we are not revealing their real identities here.
There's a big Ministry of Home Affairs meeting tomorrow to deal with the ISIS threat. And this also comes on the back of your story where you interviewed Saifullah. What's on the agenda and what's the government's plan?
The government's strategy to combat ISIS in India is very different from what they've been doing till now as far as terror is concerned. They're basically now trying to get a de-radicalization kind of a plan in place. There needs to be a proper framework to take on ISIS, and that's the idea, because till now we've seen that many of these recruits who were trying to go out of India and were intercepted by agencies, they were not arrested. So that's
and they've been actually sent back. They've been sent back to try and ensure that they can go back and resume normal life. Isn't that dangerous?
Well, in a sense, you can say that...
because they've been recruited once, you don't know what they'll do once they go back into society.
Well, that's right. But what sources have told me, people who are part of this operation, that just because they're back to their normal lives, it doesn't mean that they are not under surveillance.
They're still under surveillance.
They're still being monitored
Abhishek
very
Bhalla,
closely.
thanks for that report. I want to go across now to my colleague Smita Sharma. Smita, 2 Indians are still, as we speak, captive with the ISIS. Now, what's the government done so far to try and secure their release?
2 things, Rahul. First of all, if you remember, Vikas Swarup since morning, the MEA spokesperson, has been stressing on the word detention and not abduction. He, in a statement, said that these Indians were detained, and of course, 2 of them were released. But through my sources in Libya, what I'm picking up is that the other 2 Indians are likely to be released in the next 24 to 48 hours, because the 2 Indians who have been released, who essentially belong to Raichur and of course Bengaluru in Karnataka, they are the ones who are now on their way to that Indian mission in Tripoli. The distance from Sirte to Tripoli is some 500 kilometers, and they've covered some 200 to 250 kilometers already. They're expected to be at the Indian mission by around 9 o'clock local time, so which is another 2.5 to 3 hours there, from where they will be taken to the border, which is 200 kilometers from there, and be flown back to India via Tunis. But other paper arrangements need to be made. A transit visa needs to be given. But these other 2 Indians who are still captive, the men who released these other 2 Indians, they informed them that aap log aage jao, the other 2 will likely follow you. But just one quick point, Rahul, what is interesting is while MEA kept on stressing on the word detention, Sushma Swaraj in her tweet today actually said that the men who were abducted were released, though the government's official position was that they were not negotiating. It was the university at Sirte that was actually holding on to that communication dialogue with the abductors.
At this time, our thoughts and prayers are with the family of the 2 Indians who are still abducted by the ISIS, regardless of whatever nomenclature Vikas Swarup and the MEA wants to use. I hope the government's able to bring them back. Smita Sharma, thank you very much.